the MC as well as the speaker for today. The second speaker, not say MC. The second speaker is Stevan, and he's going to be giving us a talk on Chipless RFID.
Hello everyone, my name is Stevan Preradovic. I'm a third year PhD student here at Monash. Most of the faces are familiar, so for those who don't know me, I work under the supervision of Dr. Nimai Kamaka. Started in February 2006 on the Chipless RFID project, and yep, it's been 3 years now how I've been working on it. I did my undergrad in Serbia, that's where my background is. It's a small country in South Europe, so yeah. Okay, so the title of my talk is, and basically my PhD work is development and design of a novel Chipless RFID system for low-cost item tracking. So for those who don't know what RFID is, it stands for radio frequency identification. Basically it means we identify objects via RF waves, radio frequency waves. So the outline of the presentation, I'll go back to just a brief introduction to RFID. Usually I don't do it because when I usually speak with people who are familiar with it, although there are people from all sorts of branches of work like power, optics, might not be quite familiar with what it is. After that I'll give the heart of the concept of our novel system, which is a signature, frequency signature or spectral signature concept. I'll talk about the Chipless RFID system application, which is very important because RFID is an application-driven technology. If you take a look at RFID and Google it, you will find that you get various RFID systems, but not every RFID system works for every application, so it's very application oriented. Then I'll present actually what I've done, the research. So the multi-resonator based Chipless RFID tag, which is fully chipless, so it has no silicon on it, fully planar and printable. And of course I'll present the design steps. I'll also present the data encoding, which is very important once you get rid of the chip. Like I said, it's a chipless system, so there's no chip, so nothing performs the modulation in terms of an active circuitry. It's all passive, so you have to use something to perform modulation. We'll also talk about the isolation using the cross-polarized tagged antennas, which is a polarization purity that we use in order to differentiate between the two signals that we transmit and receive, which is very important. And I'll present the experimental setup and the measurements, which are actually basic proof of concept of our system. And I'll show some recent advances. And if you're really interested, I've got some circuits here that I can share with you. And at the end, the conclusions to the presentation and results that we've obtained. So like I said, the RFID system stands for Radio Frequency Identification System. So it comprises of two basic elements. You have a reader base station, which interrogates the zone, and it detects tags on specific items which have a unique ID on them. So that's the basic idea, that's all you really need to know. Now the problem with RFID is that the tag dictates the cost of the system. You might have 1,000, 500,000 tags, they dictate the cost. If you say today's tags, which I have here, a commercially available one costs around 11 cents. When you put it in millions and billions, that's a lot of money. And people sometimes want to tag cheap objects which cost only maybe 10, 20 cents, or even less than a cent, like a note bill, or a couple of cents like a postage stamp. They can't afford to put a tag which is available on the market today, which costs 10 or 11 cents. So there is a very good area for research and design of tags that are really cheap. When I say really cheap, below 1 cent. So since the tag consists of an antenna and a chip, and the price of the chip is 11 cents, and the price of the tag is 11 cents, so obviously the price is on the chip. So to make the tag cheap, get rid of the chip. But then you have a problem, how are you going to encode data with no chip? This is where my research focuses on, and developing this system. So basically we have a collaboration on this grant with CSIRO that I've been working on to develop a cheap, printable, and fully passive Chipless RFID system. When I mean fully passive, that means it does not need any power supply. The tag does not need any power supply to operate. There's no active circuitry on it. And like I said, the application is intended for low-cost item tracking, like banknotes, postage stamps, envelopes, even documents like passports. I believe Australia did put RFID tags into our passports, and they put it into the backbone of the passport, and you used to break because it was an active one. This one could actually provide us a very bendable one without any possibilities of breaking. We've lodged a provisional patent on it under that number, big one down there. And in this presentation, I'll present the transponder, which is the heart of it. So this is the block diagram of the Chipless RFID system. As you can see, figure 2 shows the application. So we have a conveyor belt application. Our system is designed to work in a pretty controlled environment, so you need to have the tag oriented in a specific way. And as you can see, the 2 basic blocks of the RFID system are presented. The RFID reader, which is some sort of smart device that has antennas on it, interrogates the tag. The tag comprises the ID, the data, and what we have done that no one else has done really is that we've encoded, we've used frequency signature to encode data in both amplitude and phase. So basically what that means is if you have a 6-bit word and you want to present it in frequency signature, each bit is reserved for a particular frequency. Okay, so bit 1 is at frequency F1, bit 2 is at frequency F2, bit 3 is at frequency F3. Depending on the magnitude of the signal at that particular frequency, you determine is it a logic 0 or a logic 1. Okay, well, that's how it's been done so far, and that's what we have as well. What we've also introduced is the phase information as well. The phase information actually gives you, if it's a logic 0, you will get a jump in phase. So basically what I've said, if you transmit a signal and you get a dip, there will be a logic 0 in magnitude, right? If you don't get a dip, there will be a logic 1. In the phase, if you have a logic 0, you will have a phase ripple like that. If there is no phase ripple at that particular frequency, it means it's a logic 1. Okay? So we have 2 different methods of interrogating the tag, and we can use them to double check if we're reading the correct ID, because sometimes amplitude is always subject to noise, and you can get a wrong false read, but phase is much more resilient. So the block diagram, basically actually the layout of the tag is presented here. This is a prototype tag which contains 6 bits. It works between 2 and 2.5 gigahertz. And the way we designed the tag is we have 2 antennas which are cross-polarized, which basically means there's a very high isolation between these 2 antennas because they're orthogonally polarized. This one is polarized in this direction, and that one's polarized in that direction. There's a pretty good isolation between them, over 20 dB. Now, the way we encode data is we introduce multi-stop band filters, which are actually spiral resonators right next to the microstrip line. Each spiral resonator resonates at a different frequency. So this is a 6-bit system, that's why you see 6 spirals. Each bit is encoded by this particular spiral. I'll get back to how we encode data. All you need to know right now is that each spiral corresponds to 1 bit. Okay? So this is how the system works. We have 2 reader antennas, which are also cross-polarized. Okay? And there's a polarization match between the two antennas, between the tag antennas and the reader antennas. So we transmit an interrogation signal, which is a multi-frequency signal. In our case, because it's 6 bits, let's say we interrogate, we send out 6 frequencies at once, or one after the other. And the tag receives it, it goes through the spiral resonators, and it retransmits in the different plane, so we can achieve a high isolation. There's no interference between this signal and that signal. And we receive it by another reader antenna, so basically 2 antennas. One here and one there. This retransmitted signal by the tag contains the data which is encoded in the spectrum using these spiral resonators. Okay. I'll get back to how we encode data because I need to show you a photo of it. These are the design elements of the antenna parameters, layout parameters. So it's an ultra-wideband circular monopole antenna. We need, in order to encode as much bits as possible, we need to have room in our spectrum. So ultra-wideband looks like a good option. And as I said, this prototype works between 2 and 2.5 gigahertz. The idea is to move to the UWB spectrum, which is between 3.1 and 10.7. One of the reasons why we used this antenna is because it provides good, a good radiation pattern, figure of 8 radiation pattern, which means it's almost omnidirectional. It doesn't matter from which position you read the tag, you'll be able to get the information. These are the measurements of the chipless tag antenna. As you can see, that's the simulated measured return loss and the radiation pattern in both planes at the 2 gigahertz and the 2.5 gigahertz. So as you can see, as I said, in one plane it's fully omnidirectional, while in the other one there's a null, which is expected. So it's figure of 8.1. And the gain of the antenna is around 0 dB or 1, which is something that you get with the omnidirectional ones. Now the multi-resonator design, these are the spirals actually. This is the heart, this is how we encode the data. Like I said, we use cascaded spiral resonators. The good thing about these spiral resonators, it doesn't matter how many you cascade, they don't interfere between each other, right? Now, each one is different, although they look the same, but if you take a closer look, they're different in dimension, different lengths. It means they resonate at different frequencies, okay? So basically 6 spirals resonate at different frequencies gives you 6 different frequencies, 6 different bits. Okay? The reason why we use spiral resonators is because they're pretty compact and they have the 3 dB bandwidth is around 20 megahertz. So they provide a good solution. These are the simulated measure results of the insertion loss and the transition phase. Now they represent 2-port planar devices, so basically we need to characterize them with 2-port S parameters, both amplitude and phase. As you can see, the simulation measure results correspond quite nicely. The insertion loss here shows where each spiral resonator resonates, while the phase here, the jumps in phase actually show also where they resonate. This is something that hasn't been used so far in data decoding when using spectral signatures by people, because chipless RFID has been, an idea for around 10-15 years, but no one has actually come with it in a multi-bit system which works. Okay, and they've only been looking at the amplitude, while we look at amplitude and phase. Now this is how we encode data, because people tell me, you get rid of the chip, then how do you encode data? Well, like I said, one thing is to distinguish between the transmitting and the receiving signal, which we do with cross-polarization. Okay, so they don't interfere, we get a good isolation of 50 dB. The other one is, there should be a D here, it's unshorted spiral. We short the spiral between 2 terms. Now what does this create? So these are 2 spirals that are exactly the same. I just will show a photo. If you take a look, this one has a little short here. So what that short does, it actually changes the electrical length of the spiral resonator. It starts resonating at a different frequency, okay? So let's say our system works between 2 and 2.5 gigahertz. If I short this spiral resonator, it starts resonating somewhere at 4 gigahertz. For me, that really doesn't matter because it's outside the frequency band that I'm looking at which my frequency system operates. But what it does, it actually removes the resonance, which means that I can have a situation when I have a resonance and when I don't have a resonance, depending on have I shorted the spiral or not. That automatically means that I have a 0 or a 1, because this resonance creates a stop band, therefore a attenuation of the amplitude, okay? Basically, now I have digital logic, 0, 1. Now I can encode data. And it's very simple, because all you need to do is cut this bit, and your resonance all of a sudden appears. Of course, it's a one-time write system, but for the application, it's very good. Why? This is on printed circuit board. The idea is to go on conductive ink. Now, the people from the industry with whom we work, they say, we want to print a tag that has, it's just a null tag, and then we want to encode data. And the way we want to encode it is we have a laser, and we just go over the tag, bang, 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 cut it where we want to, and we've encoded data. This actually provides you that. They're going to know where the spirals are, where the shorts are, all they do is just run over a laser. We want to activate this spiral, this spiral, this spiral, this spiral, and the other ones we won't activate, and that's our code, 010101 or 1101, something like that, okay? So basically that's how we encode data. The other thing I mentioned is the cross-polarization is very important, because if you go to the UWB spectrum, you need to have limitations of power that you emit. You can't emit 10 watts of power and say my system works at 100 meters. No, you have to emit minus 45 dBm indoors and minus 55 dBm outdoors. Now you can imagine the signal coming back is going to be pretty small as well. So if you're using two antennas, of a transmitting and a receiving antenna, it's very important to provide good isolation between these transmitting and receiving antennas in order to avoid the transmitter screaming into the receiver and jamming your signal that's coming in from the tag. Okay? So we've been able to achieve a very good isolation using block periodic dipole arrays, which actually stand for LPDA, as the reader antennas. And I'll just show you what type of antenna that is. So, as you can see, this is the Chipless RFID system experimental setup, which actually proves the concept. And you can see the log periodic dipole array pretty much looks like that fishbone structure that you have for your TVs on your roof or satellite dishes now, but it's on microstrip. And the reason why we use this antenna, as I'll show you, is because it's got good directivity, good radiation pattern, good gain. And as you can see, the block diagram here shows that we have a transmitting reader antenna. These things always get mixed up. Receiving reader antenna, and we're interrogating the Chipless transponder, which is on a fiberglass stand. Now, the receiver circuitry that we use is a vector network analyzer, a 2-port one, which actually can give us the insertion loss. So basically, that's what we're just measuring, the transmission signal between these two antennas, and we're comparing it when we have a tag there and we don't have a tag there. So the reader antenna, as I said, the reason why we use it is that it provides pretty good gain and a good insertion loss, and the radiation pattern is quite more directed than the other one, because you really want to just focus on your tag. Like I said, because we work in a controlled environment, let's say a conveyor belt application, your tag is going to be going under your reader, right? And so you focus just on what's going under your reader. You don't care what's coming on the side. So really, you don't need an omnidirectional pattern. You need a pretty directive one, which gives you high gain. Right? And that's what these antennas provide. Now, these are the measurement results that we've obtained from the Chipless RFID tag reading. So what I've showed you here, I've showed you here two tags. A tag that has, on this side, two tags, and on that one as well, in both amplitude and phase data. Now, this tag here, there's two tags. One with the full line, that's a tag with all ones, all logic ones, and the other one is a tag with all logic zeros. So 3 ones, 6 zeros and 6 ones, two different tags. Now, as you can see, for this tag, this 00000, there's a dip in amplitude at the specified frequencies. So obviously, that means it's dropping. The amplitude is dropping. I've only got two more slides anyway. As for the tag 11111, as you can see, the amplitude level is much higher. All right. That's the amplitude information. The phase information, on the other hand, can be detected by jumps in the phase. So here I have a tag which has all zeros, which we should see 6 jumps in phase, and there's another tag which is 010101. So we should have a first, third, and fifth frequency phase jump, which is really what we have: first, third, fifth, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So basically, proof of concept says, yep, we can detect the tag. They're obvious. Nulls in the amplitude and jumps in the phase. Now, the recent advantage is I'll get a lot of people telling me, take a look, that prototype tag is like, it's quite big. It's like, oh yeah, how are you going to fit that on a notebook? Well, okay, and we designed a transponder which can actually fit on a notebook. I think I've got it here. Yeah. So there it is. It's got 35 spirals on it, and it operates between 3.1 and 7 gigahertz, and it's got 35 bits of information. As you can see, show the insertion loss. All these spikes, each of them represents a bit, which either, in this particular case, is all logic zeros. I could just short the spiral, the resonance would disappear, it would be a logic 1. A 35-bit tag offers you 1.3 billion possible IDs. So on printed circuit board, it looks pretty good. So basically the conclusions of my presentation is we'll presented something, novel RFID system that we're currently working on and developing, and it's fully passive and planar, which is really good for the application that we've designed it for. And the future challenges are mitigation towards plastic and paper, which I'm actually doing at the moment. Investigation to an anti-collision transponder orientation. Anti-collision might not necessarily be a need, but why not? And a smart chipless RFID reader design that someone else can really do for their PhD. And thank you very much for listening to my presentation. Hopefully I was clear enough.
I got a question.
Yeah.
When you print it out, what's
Sorry?
your printed circuit board printed out? What's your PCB printed out? It needs to if it's a note, it's money.
This one, this one works on. This is a proof of concept one. What I have is we've designed now on the simulator on the plastic 350 microns. Problem is no one wants to give you plastic substrate properties, and they're usually characterized up to 10 megahertz. We need it up to 10 gigahertz. Luckily, right now we've got the ones characterized up to 10 gig. The other thing is plastic and paper, especially when you go to thin substrates like 50 micron, induce other problems. So in order to see, can this really work, just put it on printed circuit board. If it works on printed circuit board, then go towards paper and plastic, which would be the ideal solution, but printed circuit board has its applications as well.
I guess the next question is this is going to be, a note can be in circulation from anything up to 20 years. Your circuit needs to be able to withstand the pressures of being in circulation.
This is how the Reserve Bank works actually. I know this because we work with the company's currency which actually prints the note bill. They actually check the note bills all the time if they're damaged or not, right? And they go on a conveyor belt. That's why this system is designed for a conveyor belt application. They just want to add it on their system in the Reserve Bank. So they go and check them if they're damaged or whatever, and if it's damaged they replace them, right? So I guess they could do the same with, and it's really cost them nothing to make the note bill, It's a piece of plastic. That's why we need to design something that really costs less than nothing. And that's why it has no silicon on it.
Anyone else? Alright guys, if that's the case, thank you everyone for attending.